So Guardians of the Galaxy happened. I remember distinctly that there was a lot of doubt regarding the film. It was a relatively unknown property, but what concerned people was the premise of the movie, along with the characters about which it was based on. Many people couldn't fathom a movie with the chubby dork from Parks and Recreation, alongside a talking tree and a raccoon succeeding. However, once again, we all know what happened next. I remember being very surprised knowing that Marvel was coming out with a movie like this. A main concern of mine was how it would tie into the already established universe, as this seemed like a much more out there type of film. I never doubted it though. As I mentioned in my previous videos, Marvel Studios really do have a knack for defying expectations, and this film is a prime example of why that is the case. Guardians of the Galaxy is a movie directed by James Gunn and stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Karen Gillan, Michael Rooker, and Lee Pace. The story revolves mostly around Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, who finds himself in the company of a few misfits on the run after having stolen a strange artifact. This movie is wonderful. I had such a good time watching it in theaters for the first time, and every time I watch it again, I find something to enjoy. It has a bit of something for everyone, I believe, and after the reception that it got, I'm sure many people would agree. I think what I enjoy the most about the movie is the amount of heart that's in it. The film is a comedy, but it's packed with a lot of emotion that really added weight to the events in it. Every character in the movie has a pain that they've either dealt or are dealing with, and to see these broken people come together and become stronger because of the bonds that they share, it's powerful. The family dynamic is very wonderfully captured in this movie, and that's really what I think makes the absurd premise work so well. This is also a film where the world building is done in such a way that it captivates and enthralls. Throughout the story, we bounce back and forth between different worlds and planets that are so clearly defined. They all have an interesting twist to them, and the way that they're shown really makes it seem as though there's so much more than what's just on the surface. It's all very easy to follow and thus well to expand the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it. It extends the lore behind it, and it begs the question of what else is out there in this world. Now, something's gotta be said about the soundtrack to this movie. The 70s and 80s songs here really work. They are all fun, and they capture the essence of Peter Quill's character, whose roots are very influenced by this type of music specifically. They're all very fun to hear, and when each song comes on, it really emphasizes how unique this movie is from the others in the MCU. It adds a flavor to the movie that sets it apart from the rest. Apart from the soundtrack, the score is also very impressive to me. It's so easy for the soundtrack to have overshadowed the score, but in this case, Tyler Bates does an amazing job, specifically with the Guardians theme. It's so distinct and recognizable, and I'm so happy that they kept it going into the sequel, because it's the kind of theme that screams, "We are the Guardians of the Galaxy." I love it when a scene comes on and it plays. It's just wonderful to hear. What really drives this movie though are the characters, and these are truly some of the best characters we've seen on a superhero screen ever. Chris Pratt nails it as Peter Quill. He's charming and charismatic, and he sells both the scoundrel side of his character along with the more noble and emotional aspects. Many question whether or not he could fit the superhero mold, and maybe he hasn't fit right into it in a traditional sense, but he certainly has found his place amongst the best MCU heroes. I think it's a little unfair to brand the other Guardians as supporting characters, as they provide much more character and depth than supporting characters usually do, but that's the role they play in this movie in certain ways. Perhaps if there were a role in between main characters and supporting characters, that's where they would lie. Now, Zoe Saldana's Gamora is perhaps the weakest of the Guardians in terms of how strong her character is. She doesn't give too much to get invested in, but that's not to say she wasn't a good addition to the team. She provided a more serious foil to Peter's more lackadaisical nature, and they played off each other very well. I just felt like a little more attention could have been given to her. Dave Bautista's Drax was a show stealer. He was hilarious in the movie, he played his role to a T, and though he could have been fleshed out a little more just like Gamora, we do end up caring about this guy because of his outlook and the way he deals with things. And the true stars of the Guardians are Rocket Raccoon and Groot. These two come hand in hand. They are great. Bradley Cooper adds such a snarkiness to Rocket, and he's really the foul-mouthed, loud talker of the group, so naturally, he's paired up with the gentle giant that is Groot. How many ways can you say 3 words while being one of the best and most lovable characters in the movie? I don't know, ask Vin Diesel how to do it. He manages to make it work for Groot. Now, the movie has some issues. I think it could have used a few more truly serious moments. I know I mentioned earlier that it has a lot of heart, but I stand by this point. As a comedy, it works very well, it gets the laughs and all that, but I think just a bit more on the emotional side could have really added a lot more to the story. The movie didn't really start the trend of subverting moments that could have packed a good amount of emotion through humor, but it certainly made the use of this technique very popular. The movie does have a lot of heart, but I think it could have used a little more focus just to add more punch to moments that could have been more powerful. The villain in the movie is bad too. Yeah, he's pretty bad. He's there with Malekith as one of the worst villains Marvel has offered up thus far. To be fair to the movie, I think it would have been a little too much to ask for it to have provided a truly great villain amongst the development of 5 heroes in their first outing, but yeah, it's something that's gotta be said. Ronan the Accuser is bad. It's like he's just evil for the sake of being evil, which is the worst thing a villain can be. And yeah, you know the rest. Typical Marvel villain problem, etc, etc. Bad villain. Overall though, I really love this movie. It's one of Marvel's biggest surprises to date. They took a cast of relatively unknown heroes and turned them into what now are household names. They created a very fun movie that, while hilarious, also contains a good amount of heart, making it one of Marvel's best. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, I had so much fun watching this movie again. It was a great reminder of how much I love the Guardians, really. I can't wait to be talking about them again. All in due time, I suppose. And while it's been great to see this group of heroes on screen, next week, the OG superhero team returns. Oh boy.